Můžeš si sednout tam k týmní bundě. Černý. Tady je druhá řada. To je moje bunda. Tak na 30-40 minut. Já to vím.
Nebudu se tě snažit stresovat, tam jenom tohle, bude ti to stačit.
Jo, já se vejdu do 30 do 40. Ne, já jsem se vlastně. Já jsem vlastně.
Ty máš?
Friesland, to je mě vlastně. Ale je to spin-off.
Good luck.
Jerry, looks good? Yeah. The 940s will should be okay. Speed maximum distance is 1 meter. So stay near there. Do you have a pointer?
No. Do I need one?
This one.
Yeah, you can. Did you want one?
No, I can use this.
Okay.
The better will see.
Okay.
Thanks. Petr Shabata, who is a part of base runtime team, and he will talk about the generation core, the future Fedora.
Okay, good morning. It's nice to see so many people here. And as Petr said, I will tell you about the generational core, which is the base of the platform, and we would like to ship it as part of the Fedora. But there's a small disclaimer in the beginning. The whole thing is a lie. There is no generational core. There is only base runtime. It's sort of the same thing, but we have decided to rename the generational core concept to base runtime because it's so much easier to say and so much easier to remember. I will get into more details later in the talk. So first, let me talk about the status quo and the past and the present of Fedora. Yeah, I will try. Okay. So the status quo of Fedora. Nowadays we ship thousands and thousands of packages, nearly 20,000 of source RPMs and 54,000 of binary RPMs. All of these have varied quality. Some of them are very well cared for, some of them are really rotten and unmaintained. And the problem is that we don't build them at the same time, we don't give them the same attention, they are all tangled together, so the really critical packages that form the base of the system depend on the really rotten parts that nobody cares for. And it's all released together, and we promise the same level of quality for all of them. And we promise to support it for the whole lifetime of the Fedora release. You can see on the picture the number of source RPMs and how they evolve during the Fedora lifetime.
Does it flatten out on the end, or is the graph just cut off?
It's flattening out.
A big part of that is that we're being more aggressively burning orphans and stuff like that over the last few years that we never used to do. We just kind of left everything there, and we're becoming packages that are unmaintained and fails to build.
Right here, you can see when Fedora Core became Fedora today, and the number of packages that, as they were increasing over the time. So this sucks. We cannot guarantee this promise of quality for everything that we include for all those 20,000 packages. So how do we solve that situation? We modularized everything. So out of this many people, how many of you have heard of modularity at some point? Awesome. And how many of you know what it actually is? Oh, 2 or 3 people. Okay. So let me summarize it for you. Modularity is about serious bundling. Every module bundles all of its dependencies except for a very small set that is included in the base. It's content duplication. The libraries included with the applications are bundled, so you have several copies of them on your system. It's maintenance overhead. Every application developer needs to maintain all of their dependencies and patch the security issues and stuff like that. In some cases, they also have to maintain several parallel multiple copies. It's different. Everybody needs to get used to something new and how to manage their system. And mainly, it's still not ready. On the other hand, it enables upstream-driven life cycles. So we don't have to release everything as one thing, but we can release, for example, Python whenever upstream releases it. We can release glibc whenever there's a new upstream release. We can release new kernel anytime, and it all still works together. We can offer several parallel copies of the same thing. We can, for example, include parallel 5.20 and 5.22, or Python 3.6 and 3.7 in the future. It offers parallel installability. In some cases, it's possible to either install the parallel copies on the same system, or you can use containers to provide those. It's more honest, since we deliver these as part of standalone modules, standalone applications with their own life cycles, we don't have to promise the same quality for everything at the same time. And it's familiar. Other systems have been doing this for years. For example, take Windows. Applications that you ship for XP still work because they bundle all their dependencies. Take the mobile operating system, such as Android or iOS. You just install the applications and you don't have to worry about all the libraries or all the other packages that you put on your system. It's all included. I won't go into any more details since there's going to be another specific talk led by Adam and Courtney. They will explain you how it all works, how to put it together, how to develop modules. So, about base runtime and how it fits into this module picture. Base runtime is a module like any other. It provides the base operating system capabilities, the tools, the services in some cases, and you link and develop your modules against this one. It's the basis of the operating system and defines the release of the traditional Fedora. One of the challenges that we were facing during the development was deciding what it actually is, what components we include, what API we guarantee to the applications, what runtime it actually provides. In the picture, you'll see that our goal was to provide hardware abstraction, which is mostly kernel and drivers. glibc, for example, as it provides the interface to the kernel. Also to provide system tools and services, such as core utils, so you can boot the system, you can log in, you can do basic stuff, authentication daemons and stuff like that. It could also provide shared libraries for the applications above. This is the most difficult part since we don't normally know what people will be expecting, but we can do some guesses using the traditional Fedora releases as the input for analysis. This is also where the generational core and base runtime differ. In the original idea of the generational core was that we provide all the three boxes that are listed below, and it will be split into smaller modules that are included in the generational core stack. The base runtime was supposed to be only the hardware abstraction layer. Then there was supposed to be like system runtime, which provides the authentication services, basic tools and such. And the shared libraries were meant to be part of the shared components module. Since we decided to simplify this concept for Fedora 26, we took all these 3 or 2.5 and named them just base runtime. It's much easier for people to comprehend. The main challenge is finding the balance between the system footprint on the disk space and memory and usability of this core. The fewer packages we include, the lower maintenance burden it means for the base runtime team, the lower disk space it uses, the lower memory footprint because you don't have to have as many libraries loaded at the same time, faster builds. The fewer components we have, the faster we build them, of course. And since every module update means that you have to rebuild all the components included, since especially in this case, since base runtime provides the build root for itself, you need to make sure that everything builds using the same components again. And it also means a smaller attack surface as the fewer API you expose, especially when it comes to cryptography or network management, the less there is to attack and exploit. Another major challenge when developing base runtime was building it. Since it's actually the first real module in the majority infrastructure, we have to bootstrap it completely from the scratch. Which means that to build the components that we want to ship, we have to provide all the build dependencies first and build those build dependencies too. So we had to analyze the whole build dependency chain of the packages that we pre-selected, which actually just to add to the previous slide, we decided to go with POSIX userland utilities, well, actually part of that, LSB inspired package set, the minimum build root that is defined in Fedora today, the kernel, glibc, and I think that's it at this point. Anyway, so we took this package set and we recursively found all the build dependencies of this set and their runtime dependencies and so on. Yes.
You may miss the boot loaders.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the boot stuff. So also the grab and drag it and set up a file system and all this. So altogether, when you consider this runtime, it's roughly 170 source packages, I believe, which expands when you include all the devel sub-packages. So module developers can develop against this to roughly 700 packages now. They don't have to be installed altogether, but they need to be available. If you compute the whole dependency chain recursively, it ends up to be like 3,030 SRPMs at this point. And to bootstrap it, we need to build them all. The problem is that, as mentioned early in the beginning, the quality of packaging in Fedora is quite low. Most of the packages are quite rotten and unmaintained, and they unfortunately appear in this build dependency chain. So we've been trying to build this self-hosting set since like October, and we are still failing. We use the Fedora 2025 release candidate 3 as the initial repository set, and trying to rebuild that only using the components in this set resulted in over 400 failures during build. This was mostly caused by the removal of Perl from the standard build root, and since there was no following mass rebuild, many of the packages that actually build required Perl in practice didn't declare this build dependency. After updating this set to Fedora 25 beta, no, it was beta first, then release candidate 3. The number of failures went down to roughly 170, if I remember correctly, and we have resolved most of them since. But during the updates, other changes happened, mostly switching to system Python in RPM build caused that Python is no longer part of the standard build root, and that introduced new fail to build from source issues. It's almost resolved. We have like 3 packages that need to be fixed at this point, and we hope to get it done in the near future. Another set of challenges is the dependency chains, both at runtime and build time, and how we should split the packages so we can only include this minimal set and still pass through closure. Also, the smaller build dependency chain for the self-hosting prototype means that we can build it much faster, and we can bootstrap new architectures and operating systems much faster. So, how many of you know what Team Toady is? No pair programmers here. Okay. Team Toady means there is more than one way to do it. The acronym is written differently, but it's usually referred to as this Team Toady thing. So to reduce dependency chains, we can introduce new sub-packages. We can disable optional features. We can combine these two into moving optional libraries and plugins into sub-packages, and then filtering those from the set. We can repackage the stuff into non-standard locations so it becomes private, which is also one key feature of modularity. And we need to make sure that even after this, people can still use our API, which means mostly including the devel packages, so they can build their applications against the API that we provide. This is not always easy, as many packages include development scripts and tools in their devel packages, which pulls in a lot of dependencies. It's not just the header files. This is the map of the self-hosting prototype, the 3,000 packages, and the build dependencies between them. The picture was provided by Harold over there. It's really too messy to look at it, but I can link you to the SVG after the talk, so you can actually see the dependencies in detail. I'll try. Another set of challenges is implementing packaging changes in Fedora. This is mostly a people issue. Many maintainers are not as responsive as we would like them to be. Generally, we have to wait several weeks before they apply even the patch or respond in any way to the bug that we file for them. If they reply, they might have a different opinion than we do, which is not always a bad thing, which encourages discussion and finding new solutions, but sometimes it can stall the progress completely. It also leads to repetitive, endless discussions about the same resolved topics over and over. So, what to expect in the near future? In Fedora 26, we would like to deliver the base runtime module, or at least some technology preview, which would include the package set that I mentioned earlier, and a module-based product codenamed Boltron, which would be a module release of Fedora server. Since the infrastructure isn't ready to provide any updates, this will be a one-off thing, and it will serve for demonstration. In Fedora 27, we hope to have a polished base runtime module with several modules running on top, and we would like to provide these modular composes as the primary release of Fedora. And much later in the future, we hope to provide a lot more content, which will be a lot more polished. There will be several competing implementations of the same thing, parallelly available language stacks, for example. And who knows, maybe it will finally enable the year of the Linux desktop. I have some small demo for you. As of recently, this week actually, we have a demo repository with the RPMs that we would like to provide in base runtime at 26. It's still work in progress. We don't actually ship all the devel sub-packages, so you cannot develop against all the libraries that we include, but we are working on resolving that. The repository looks like this. Okay. Okay. And anybody knows what the parameter is?
Or call less with minus big R.
Like that? I can do this portion. No, it doesn't. Minus R?
No, for less. It's for less.
Less dash R.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. So most of those are for the meant as dependencies of the main package set that we include. Altogether, it's those 699 close to 700 RPMs. I uploaded them to Fedora people /groups /modularity /repos /base runtime /26. There will be a link in the presentation. You can install a small set that whatever you decide it to be into mock, and then you can create, for example, Docker images out of that. There is also the base runtime module definition in the module MD format, which is the format that describes modules, how they get built, how they get installed, and all the metadata. It looks like this. And it also defines the installation profile for the base image, for example. So in this case, it would be the bash, core utils, file system, glibc minimal length pack, so we don't include all the language packs, RPM for the management, and shadow utils, so it passes the mock installation completely. So if you do that, I have the mock config here. Here you see that it actually hardcodes the packages from the module MD there. We plan to have some scripts to automate this, and later on it will be part of the infrastructure, so you wouldn't have to worry about this. It references the repository I mentioned. So if you install that, and then decide to create a Docker image out of that, for example, you can do. You see that it installed 81 packages, which is the pre-selected small set plus all their dependencies. Should be able to run the shell in there. And this Docker image allows you to try and develop your first modules against base runtime. It's really just for experimentation. I built all those RPMs on my laptop using the prototype we tagged in Koji, in the staging infrastructure of Koji, since we don't have anything on that in production yet. So I'm not actually publishing this Docker image anywhere at this point, but we plan to do that in the near future. If you want to build this yourself, there's the link to the RPM repository. There's the link to the staging dist-kit, which includes the base runtime module MD file. That includes the list of all the components for the self-hosting prototype and the installation profile for the small set of the base image. It also includes the entire API definition of the base runtime module, which is a set of packages that you might rely on that it will be available. And this is the staging Koji self-hosting repository, which includes all those 3,000 builds. So if you want to build your own base runtime, for example, you can use this and modify the module MD file, install the module build service locally, and build whatever you like. Once you try that, you may want to help. The main point of contacting us is in the Modularity Working Group. The website is on the Fedora project wiki. It will point you to the Fedora Modularity Working Group meetings, to the IRC channel, the mailing list, and everything. There is also the base runtime project website, which describes what we are trying to do, shows you the API, the development, documents all the decisions, why we split something out, why we did this or that. But the easiest way really is just joining the Fedora Modularity channel and talking to us. So it's much shorter than expected, and I hope there will be some discussion. Go ahead.
I had a couple of questions.
Yeah, awesome.
One's a question, one's a comment, I guess. How does this, I'm sorry if this is a stupid question, relate to atomic host, as in the contents of the atomic host image? Is that going to be a superset of base runtime? Is it something different?
Okay, the question is how base runtime relates to atomic host and whether it's a superset or subset of the atomic host. That's a good question. There's a lot of overlap between those two. The package that included in atomic host is definitely an inspiration for base runtime, and the goal is to generate atomic host images from base runtime in the future. Since this is just one of the way how we can deliver modules. Modules are, I call them the abstract unit of software built and delivery. So you can build them as repositories, images, VMs, whatever.
The second thing was, I guess, more a comment. I was a little concerned about the proposed schedule, because it seems, the 26 thing seems doable, but the 26 target seems quite small. It's the base runtime itself, and I guess not a production Fedora server on top of it.
It's
what would be the official Fedora
okay.
server?
The next question is about the schedule in F26 and what we plan to deliver besides the base runtime itself. This is something Stephen Gallagher could answer, and
I should know this, but
yeah.
actually the comment was going to be getting from that to the plan for 27 seems ambitious, because it's like 26, a single module on top of base runtime, 27, everything.
Right. So to clarify, one thing that was left off of the slide, Fedora 26 is just a proof of concept. It is absolutely, it is something we're going to ship but not stick on Get Fedora. It's just going to be a development page, just a proof that we can get something out of this code. Fedora 27, the goal is for us to produce, is to still produce the traditional approach and have this as a secondary choice.
Okay.
And the goal for Fedora 28 is for us to be able to switch it to the primary choice.
Okay.
That was the decision that we made in the Fedora Server Working Group over the last 2 weeks of meetings.
Where I should be.
We will also keep delivering the traditional release for some time.
Yes.
Even if
the idea is that we want to produce both for a while. 28 is probably going to be the inflection point where we make that one the top button on Get Fedora.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense.
I have a question. How are we planning to actually build and ship that when we have nothing in our infrastructure and we are already at max capacity and no ability to put any of that into production in the next week and a bit that we've got to get it in production before we can do stuff for alpha?
the question was about how we can actually build this with no resources in the infrastructure and in such a short time.
In Fedora 26, I think we're going to be building it manually. Again, it's a proof
Okay,
of
so
concept.
it's not going to be Fedora, it's going to be a remix.
Effectively.
Yes, it's going to be like a
It's going to be
preview
very
edition.
heavily Fedora team
They got
sponsored.
council approval for the brand.
Yeah, but it's still going to be, whatever.
It's a small package that after F26 branching, we will deploy the module build service in production and build whatever we can do in the standard production Koji in parallel to the standard release. Yes, Mike?
Is there a target for how many packages are in the base runtime? Is it still being shrunk?
The question is about whether the package set in base runtime is somehow defined and whether there's some target for that. No. Yeah, you can take this one.
So we're trying. Our goal is to try and avoid the how many packages question, because what we really want to do with modularity is say this is the API it provides. Whatever's inside of it, we're going to go to whatever lengths we can to reduce its potential attack surface, its memory usage, its disk footprint. But the how many packages question in it is kind of misleading. But we do want to shrink it because, of course, that reduces attack surface and things like that.
Yeah, that's the important part, but
But
the absolute number.
we don't want to shrink the visible API. That's the important part.
Okay, well then I guess kind of reframe the question in terms of how far away from the API you want to provide is the current base runtime?
Question is how far the current package set is, how far is the current set from the ultimate goal of the API that we want to provide? Pretty far. We only want to provide just the kernel, glibc runtime, system management, container management tools, and nothing else. Everything else should be, unless it's intentionally provided as in this picture, the shared library that is supposed to be consumed by applications, and we actually plan to support it. It should be hidden, and it should be packaged in a non-standard location. So you have to jump through hoops to actually consume that. Yes.
So you said Fedora generational core is a lie. Can you expand on the history of how that came to be? And the only reason I ask that is because it was pitched to the Atomic Working Group and those working on containers that it was a constant that would exist, that we need to frame the built infrastructure around containers, that would be a thing.
Okay. So I was asked to speak more about the history of the generational core and how it came to be and how it's rated. It's basically the same thing as base runtime. It's just a different name. The concept of the generational core was meant to include more of the shared libraries than base runtime does, but the concept is almost identical. And the main reason for the change was the name was too long and people didn't like to pronounce it. That's really also the case.
So base runtime basically is what generational core was originally envisaged to be.
Yes, it is almost the same as
And
generational
the thing
core.
that was originally base runtime is just the bottom layer, and that's not
Exactly. It's not just this lower layer; it's the whole thing.
So how do modules compare with, say, Flatpaks?
Question is about modules and Flatpaks. They are kind of similar. Flatpaks rely on runtimes and bundle Oreo dependencies, and they are mostly focused on desktop applications. Yes. There's an idea to build Flatpaks out of modules that you would use the module MD description to provide the the recipe for how to build a Flatpak and how to you could also define the Flatpak runtimes as modules, and then you can build the Flatpaks out of modules built on top of those runtimes.
For more details on that, it might be a good question to ask in Adam's talk in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little out of scope for base runtime.
Although.
Yeah, just, I was wondering what, trying to do all this in Fedora, it wouldn't be worth sharing the work with everybody else who's working on Flatpak. Although I know this talks about base runtime specifically, which isn't really.
There is efforts to actually be able to use smart tools on the infrastructure side of things, because there are typically requirements that are shared between how to build Flatpaks and how to build modules, and especially how to rebuild them when there is no data. So there is already talk, and there should be more talk with the groups on how to reuse some of the
Do you consider build dependencies and their closure as a part of this base runtime, or if not, how do you code them? And yeah.
Okay. Question was whether we consider the entire build dependency chain as part of base runtime, and if not, how we call that the leftover packages in this build environment. We do not. Out of those 3,000 packages, we only plan to ship like those 170, and the remaining 2,800 will be part of a module that's got a code name like the base runtime build environment. In the long term, we would like to split this build environment. So the components that are currently included in it will be included in separate modules where it makes sense. For example, there's the full Qt stack or TechLife for generating documentation that in the build dependency chain. We don't really care about that, and we definitely don't want to ship TechLife as part of base runtime. But in the future, we expect that there would be a TechLife module which would provide the distribution, including most of the common tech libraries and modules. And the base runtime would build require this TechLife module, just like it will build require the build environment module, along with other stuff.
If you follow this model, wouldn't the build closure be as big as the whole Fedora now?
It almost is right now. Yeah, and that's part of why we're really only focusing on the binary closure and, for the modules. I mean, we as Petter said, we did have to rebuild everything in that self-hosting set, and let me tell you, that was a pain in the neck. But once the base runtime is there, we really want people to be able to say, okay, I need.
It's like, Google's like, screw it, I can't say Bruno.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It would be much preferred if we could take a page out of something like Microsoft's book and say, here's the C development module, and it contains most of the stuff that you need to build something that will run on base runtime. And that's, that contains GCC, the GCC compiler and the tool and auto tools and CMake and, the common set of things, not necessarily all the popular libraries, but at least the basic set of tools you would need. And then that would be one of the build requires for base runtime, but also for any other module you might want to build. And we want to split those out so that they are in sensible, self-contained sets that can be maintained as a unit rather than maintained as individual packages.
This is a long-term goal. It's nowhere near that.
This is not a Fedora 26 goal.
This question is going to sound more snarky than I need it to.
We are used to it.
It is. Do we generally consider things that Microsoft has done in the past to be standing ovations to the right way to do software engineering?
As a general case, not necessarily. However, there are certainly places where they have just done things that have been easier on their users than we have.
Okay, that's fair.
It's best to
And-
take,
and I-
it's,
and I
it's best to copy where it makes sense.
Right, and I ask in earnest because I lack visibility because I kind of ignore the fact they exist for the most part. Maybe to my own detriment, but I wanted to qualify that. That was not meant to be a snarky. I was just kind of generally curious because I'm not generally liked what I've seen come out of their camp. And I think probably most people in the room can share that.
Just for the record, the comment was about whether we admire Microsoft and how they do things.
Thank you.
What's the plan to get all QA tied into this so that we're testing modules as they come out?
Question is about QA. This is mostly for the modularity talk later. But yeah, the whole modularity stuff heavily relies on the QE and CI being readily available and everything being tested automatically. In the grand scheme of things, you would just push a change to this kit, it would get automatically built, it would get automatically tested, and it wouldn't be released to public until it passes everything that you prescribed. There will be a lot of duplication, a lot of rebuilds against everything. So without automated CI, it's not really possible to do any of that.
So I have a comment to that. Dennis didn't make the link explicit, but this ties back exactly to what Dennis was saying earlier. If you're building the concepts and whatever for these modules outside of release engineering, that's going to make it very hard to QA and make it almost impossible to tie them into a CI workflow.
This is just a temporary thing since the module build service is supposed to be made available after F26 is branched.
But I'm just saying the earlier you can get it into the pipeline, the better we can do QA.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Yeah.
That just to add on to that, one of the major pieces here too is that one of the driving forces on here is that all of the tests will be available to will be publicly available to be modified. We'll have a pull request system or something equivalent. So we want to make sure that it's not just a core team trying to write tests, that literally anyone can pick it up and add to it. So.
Is there a list of modules already? Or is there a number of modules?
There's a question whether we have an idea what kind of modules we would like to ship in F27 or F26. There's a list of roles that for Fedora Server that the modularity team is putting together. I'm not aware if there's anything else at this point, but we will, well, not we, but we expect that most of the packages and special interest groups, working groups, will assist with creating the logical units where it makes sense over time.
So is there an estimate already?
Could be a couple hundreds.
Have you guys worked with the Anaconda team yet to ensure that Anaconda knows how to work with modules instead of constructs?
Question is about whether we've cooperated with the Anaconda team. No, not the base runtime team, but I would ask Ralph Bean and the Factory team. This is the okay. So they have.
So the question flows from there. This initial Fedora server thing, is that not going to be an installable image, but instead be some kind of container?
A question is about the deliverable of Poltron Fedora server. Do you have any more information on that?
What we were expecting to do for the first pass was probably a hand-generated, or not hand-generated, but basically a QCOW image for virtualization. Something that's more or less pre-installed.
But
we're probably not going to do a full installer for 26. It's too much too soon.
Yeah, but base runtime itself is in a release, so we are not really focusing on how to ship base runtime by itself.
What Once I've seen and work be done to make sure everything works across all the architectures supported in Fedora.
Questions about architecture support and what we've done so far. We've only built the prototype or attempted to build it in the staging koji, so we have only tested on ARM 32-bit ARM and x86, x64. I have no information whether it will build on PowerPC, for example. Not at this point.
I'm fairly certain that we would discover new FTP, fail to build from source problems once we try to build it on other platforms, because there are quite a few packages in Fedora that their source RPMs have per architecture build requires that we just weren't able to detect when we did this the first time.
We will mostly discover those issues in the coming few weeks when we move to production. Yes?
Have you thought about whether you would want Bodhi to be involved in updating these in the long term, or would they be automatic? Just
Okay.
automatic?
Question is about body. Yes, we would like to include body in the process, but not in F26. It will be in F27. There are no plans on modifying body in F26 timeframe. And whether it's going to be automatic or manual, we expect it to be mostly automatic, but with the possibility of manual input.
I don't have to make
No, it's your domain. So Bodhi has no concept of anything but RPMs.
Yes.
This is actually a challenge that we faced for containers, for layered image builds. And the work was briefly scoped. And you're probably looking at minimum 6-month lead time with the current pool of developers available to work on it. So it's half is quote unquote full time, half of a person. If that is something realistically the modular team would like to do, or factory, whichever one, we would probably want to start planning that sooner rather than later, and see who can become available to help with that effort.
Yeah,
Yes.
For Fedora 27, we would want that done in about 6 months from now.
Mike, do you know anything about the plans for body in F27? No.
Speak to Ralph. Everyone always needs to talk to Ralph.
Yeah, but
he's like sick.
yeah, he's sick today.
Whenever I speak to them, there's like, they have no idea about alternatives for the Chat 26.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, which is fine. I want to make sure to bring that up as a point to have on the list of items to check off.
Yeah, but if it's going to be a real thing for Fedora 27, it's going to be important.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I was getting at.
It's a pretty short timeline for that.
Comment about getting from 26 to 27 seems ambitious.
It
Well, it
definitely
depends
is.
on whether or not Matthew's hypothesis about making 27 a year process might help.
Yes.
So, are there any plans to back up this modularization with organizational modularization, so will modules be politically somewhat independent, like being able to make their own packaging policies within their module or something like that?
A question is about plans for module workstation, right? And the plans and policies for packaging modules. Did I get it right? Yeah. This is again mostly for the modularity talk. I'm not aware of any immediate plans for Fedora workstation, but it would be logical, yes, to provide those. It probably won't be in F27, given all the other issues that we have to deal with, and especially with the infrastructure and the lack of manpower. But it might be after that. Yeah.
There is no dependency on things that change and their prior commitments and everything else, because it's a pretty aggressive schedule, and when, like for Relent, we're almost got everything that we're going to be able to do in F27 already scoped out. We're like in the finishing stages of figuring out what we're going to commit to doing for F27, and the other teams are probably likewise at capacity, and the lead time for what are the stuff that what are the external dependencies seems like you really need to be on the ball now with any hope to get into F27. And it seems like you've not talked to any of the external teams, and so I guess it's more of a comment, like
So
an area where you guys really need to reach out and start working with some other people. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible because the lead time for everyone's just going to be too high.
the comment is about cooperation with other teams, especially in the infrastructure. And so we don't actually need that much. We only need the module build service and the diskette namespaces and the update systems at some point. But it will be mostly packaging work. And as far as I know, the diskette namespaces are already implemented in the staging and will be part of diskette after F26 is branched in production. The module build service is a standalone new service which will be maintained by the Factory 2 team, and it's also near production ready. There are some changes to PDC. I'm not sure.
Right, but I mean, we haven't even looked at how we're going to release, manage, ship the content, where's it going to go on the mirrors, how do we distribution. There's a lot of pieces that need to be worked with that involve external teams. And the installation, like you talked about Anaconda, I'm not trying to be overly critical, but it seems like
No, it's a good thing to
there's a lot of external dependencies that likely have, or like in the release engineering case, we've got most of what we're going to be doing in F27, and all the good stuff, none of it is in our scope, and we're the ones that have to deliver it and pull it together, and figure out the problems of like shipping and mirroring, and like making sure that we can use like better links or whatever for module data like we do.
There are many open questions in this field, and I don't even know what the requirements are in this.
Right. So,
No, I was going to say, we probably want to get together and have a meeting and maybe pull Amanda Carter in to try and scope. Because there's a lot of stuff I really think we just need to kind of get visibility on what needs to be done where and sort it out. Yeah. And that's mostly a comment, not necessarily criticism.
Right.
We just got to lay it out and do work.
Okay.
Luboš said you to do the work.
Thanks so much.
Okay. I guess we can. No more questions. We can finish early.
I have one quick question.
Okay. There's still time.
2 minutes left.
Does all the modules and everything come with ponies?
We went straight to unicorns.
Okay.
Test.
To nezvučí, to jenom na nahrávání.
Aha. To je dobrá halus, no. Jsem třeba čekal, že to bude i na ty repráky.
No, to jsem čekal taky. Jo, ještě to ne.
Celou dobu si mluvil dost potichu.
Já neumím asi víc na hlas.
No, já to jsem říkal.
Tady není vůbec slyšet, že i klimatizace to ruší a ty mluvíš vlastně potichu a hrozně rychle. Pokud ty začneš dobře, ale potom stlumíš hlas a mluvíš rychle a vzadu není skoro bez rozumu.
To bych chtělo potom udělat sync meeting a jestli chceš zpětnou vazbu, až budeme v ofisu, tak ji dám normální zpětnou vazbu.
Ale jinak to bylo dobrý, ale na ten mikrofon to nějak vyřešte, protože...
No to je něco
Já jsem se ptal techniku, mikrofony tady pouze pro záznam, normální mikrofon nebude.
tak pokud musí teda mluvit hodně nahlas a zřetelně.
Já jsem nechtěl neustále upozornit,
Ne, jasně,
absolutně ruším a v tu nás přednáška to
Ne, to je jasný, to je jasný.
To vždycky jako chvilinku prostě dobře a pak zase sešel do
A totiž vzadu, tady z té klimatizace je totiž hluk. To není, když je jako ticho, jo?
A budeme
slyšet, tak ta klimatizace ruší.
Další musíme upozorňovat, no, prostě.
Pak samozřejmě se tam někdo pohne na židličce a tak další rušily, ale to se nedá zebránit.
A hlavně musíme odcházet, ne? To, že na začátku...
No, tak to je další věc. No, jasně.
Až budou přenášet do mě, začnou odcházet, tak zjistí, jak to je.
And then we ask a question and we clarify.
To je další styl.
And try to kind of like, we can do it. Not a big deal.
Ty tady budeš ještě jednou nebo další?
Dobrý večer. Je vidět, že
Máš na té fresce, mi to vypůl počítač.
Well, actually, this has a
Whatever is here is there, so.
Huh. Yeah, it's turn on the notebook and VGA, yeah, it should be fine.
okay.
Ne, nech to být. To main Fedora, to je propojený.
Jo, on má tohle.
Try to set it, because you know the screen is okay. I mean, this is your screen. So you just. It's weird.
I'm on raw, which is never a good sign. Which is not always a good choice. You know what? Let me log out and do X.
Okay.
Still got a few minutes. Yeah.
That's a long password. I just heard you typing on it. Sounded more like writing an email.